The snow had been falling since morning, covering the little town of Maplewood in thick white layers. Houses glowed with lights, wreaths hung on doors, and cheerful music played from radios inside warm kitchens. Everywhere, Christmas looked perfect, except in Emma's small home at the end of the street. She sat by the window, staring out at the holiday lights from her neighbors' houses. Her living room was quiet, too quiet for the season. A small artificial tree stood in the corner, decorated with ornaments that had seen better years. A few wrapped boxes lay under it, but they were modest, nothing like the piles she knew other children would wake up to on Christmas morning. Emma pressed her hand against the cold glass and took a deep breath. It was her first Christmas alone. Just last year, everything had been different. There had been laughter in the house, warm dinners, and the comfort of knowing she had a partner to share the weight of life with. But things had changed. Her marriage had ended, and she had been left to raise her son Ryan on her own. She told herself she was strong, that she could manage. But nights like this reminded her how much loneliness could ache. Behind her, the sound of crayons scratching paper filled the silence. Ryan, just 7 years old, sat at the kitchen table. His tongue poked out a little as he focused hard, writing something with his messy, childlike handwriting. Emma turned and smiled softly at him. He looked so much like his father, but his eyes carried a brightness she prayed would never fade. "What are you working on, sweetheart?" she asked gently, her voice low, afraid to disturb his concentration. "Just finishing my letter," he said, without looking up. Emma's chest tightened. A letter to Santa. She had hoped maybe this year he wouldn't ask for much. Their budget was tight. She had already bought him one toy car, a puzzle, and a warm sweater. It wasn't much, but it was what she could afford. Ryan folded the letter carefully and placed it on the table. "There, now Santa will know exactly what to do." He grinned, his front tooth missing, his cheeks red from excitement. Later that night, after tucking Ryan into bed, Emma came back to the table. The letter sat there, innocent, waiting. She hesitated, then slowly unfolded it. She expected to see a request for a video game, or maybe the toy robot he had once mentioned. But as her eyes ran over the crooked letters, her throat closed. "Dear Santa, I don't need toys this year. I just want my mum to be happy again. I want to see her smile like she used to. Please bring her a Christmas she won't forget." Emma's hands trembled. Tears blurred her vision as she pressed the paper against her chest. She sat down in the chair and let herself cry silently, the kind of cry that comes from deep inside, when your heart breaks and heals at the same time. Ryan could have asked for anything, but all he wanted was her happiness. She leaned her forehead on the table, whispering to herself, "I have to be stronger. For him. Just for him." The next morning she put on her coat and boots and walked through the snow to the local market. She had a short list written on paper: bread, milk, apples, and a few things for Christmas dinner. Nothing fancy, but enough to make the day feel special. As she walked past homes with wreaths and decorations, she tried to keep her chin up. People smiled and greeted her, but she felt a step removed, as though she were moving in a world that didn't belong to her anymore. Inside the store, she moved quickly through the aisles, filling her basket with the basics. Families bustled around her, kids begging for candy canes, couples laughing together as they picked turkeys. Emma kept her eyes down, focused only on what she needed. Every item she picked was chosen carefully, knowing she couldn't spend even $1 more than planned. When she reached the fruit section, she stopped to grab apples. She reached for the cheapest bag, her fingers cold from holding the basket too long. And then something happened that shifted her day, though she didn't know it yet. A man beside her stretched for a box on the top shelf, but it slipped, and he caught it at the last second. He laughed, embarrassed, and glanced at her. "Looks like I need a ladder to do my shopping," he said lightly. Emma blinked, caught off guard by the warmth in his tone. He was tall, maybe in his mid-30s, with kind blue eyes that held a hint of sadness, the kind that mirrored her own. His scarf looked hand-knitted, a little worn, as if it carried memories. She gave a polite smile, nodding slightly. "Happens to the best of us." For a moment they both reached for apples at the same time, their hands brushing. She pulled hers back quickly, her face warming. He chuckled softly, not in a mocking way, but as if he hadn't felt this kind of simple connection in a long while. They exchanged only a few more words, nothing deep, nothing that should have lingered. Yet, as Emma walked out of the store with her groceries, she realized her heart felt lighter. A stranger's smile, a kind voice. It had been months since she had felt even a flicker of warmth like that. She shook her head, reminding herself not to think too much. But as snowflakes landed on her coat and melted into tiny drops, she whispered under her breath, "Maybe things can still change." That night, as she unpacked the groceries, Ryan peeked into the bags. His face lit up when he saw the apples. "Can we make pie tomorrow, Mum?" he asked eagerly. She smiled at him, tucking a strand of hair behind his ear. "Of course, sweetheart. We'll make the best pie we've ever had." And in that moment, with her son's hopeful eyes looking at her, and the memory of a stranger's kind smile still in her mind, Emma felt something stir inside her heart. It was small, fragile, but real. Hope. The days before Christmas always carried a certain buzz in Maplewood. The streets filled with people rushing to buy gifts. Bakeries sold out of pies, and children pressed their noses against toy store windows. But for Emma, it wasn't excitement that filled her heart. It was worry. She had wrapped the few gifts she managed to buy and placed them neatly under their little tree. But she feared Ryan would notice the difference between their Christmas and everyone else's. On December 23rd, Emma woke to Ryan's voice in the kitchen. He was humming softly as he poured cereal into his bowl. She stood in the doorway, watching him. His joy seemed untouched, as if he didn't see how little they had compared to others. That innocence gave her strength, but she also knew children grow up fast. She wanted him to remember a Christmas filled with love, not with the absence of things. Later that afternoon, she pulled on her coat and told Ryan they needed to pick up a few last-minute items. Snow crunched beneath their boots as they walked to the market together. The sidewalks were busy, parents carrying shopping bags, children tugging on mittens. Ryan pointed at every glowing window, chattering about decorations, his words tumbling one after another, his excitement contagious. Emma smiled at him, though deep inside, her thoughts stayed heavy. When they entered the market, Ryan hurried toward the holiday section to look at candy canes. Emma moved through the aisles with her small list in hand. Flour, sugar, cinnamon, ingredients for the apple pie she promised. Her basket was light, but she carried it like a weight. Every dollar mattered. As she reached for a bag of flour, she noticed the man from the other day. He stood near the canned goods, reading labels with a puzzled look. Emma froze, not expecting to see him again. His scarf was the same, wrapped loosely around his neck, and he had that same air about him, kind, quiet, but a little lost. He spotted her before she could look away. His lips curved into a smile, the kind that felt genuine, not forced. "We meet again," he said. Emma nodded politely. "Seems so. I promise I'm not following you," he joked, holding up a can of soup. "Though if you have recommendations, I could use the help. I've been standing here longer than I'd like to admit." She let out a small laugh before she could stop herself. It felt strange, laughing in a grocery store with a stranger, but it also felt good. "Depends on what you're making," she replied. He hesitated, then shrugged. Honestly, nothing fancy. Just something warm. I moved back to town recently, and I'm still getting used to cooking for one. Emma studied him for a second. His voice carried both lightness and sadness. She understood that feeling too well. Soup works. You can't go wrong with it. He smiled again, a little softer this time. Then soup it is. Thank you. Emma, she said. Daniel, he replied. Nice to officially meet you. Before she could respond, Ryan came rushing over, holding 2 candy canes in his hands. His cheeks were red from excitement. Mum, can we get these? They're only 50 cents. His eyes widened when he noticed Daniel. Hi, he said shyly. Daniel crouched slightly, his smile kind. Hi there. I'm Daniel. Those candy canes look like a good choice. Ryan grinned and looked at his mom, silently begging. Emma sighed, pretending to be stern. Just one each, she said. Ryan cheered as if he had won a prize. As they walked toward the checkout. Daniel ended up beside them. They chatted casually about the snow, the long lines, and the rush of the season. Emma was careful with her words, keeping the conversation light. But something about the ease of it caught her off guard. It had been so long since she had spoken to anyone this way. Not about bills, not about responsibilities, but about little things that reminded her she was more than just a mother holding everything together. At the register, Daniel placed his few items on the counter. Before he left, he turned back to her. Merry Christmas, Emma. And to you too, Ryan. Ryan waved enthusiastically. Merry Christmas. Emma offered a small nod, her voice softer than she expected. Merry Christmas. They left the store with their bags, snowflakes landing on their coats. Ryan skipped ahead, swinging his candy cane like a wand. Emma walked behind him, her mind replaying the brief conversation. She hadn't planned on meeting anyone, not now, not when her heart still carried so much weight. But Daniel's smile had touched something in her she thought had gone numb. That evening, as she prepared dinner, Ryan chatted endlessly about Christmas morning. He guessed what might be in the wrapped boxes, though he never once mentioned the things he truly wanted. Emma listened, stirring the soup slowly, feeling both love and guilt. When Ryan finally went to bed, she sat in the living room, staring at the small tree. The letter to Santa still rested in her drawer, folded neatly. His wish wasn't for toys or games. It was for her smile. And though she tried to hide her sadness, she knew children could see truths adults thought invisible. She thought of Daniel, a stranger in the market, a man with kind eyes who seemed to understand loneliness without saying it out loud. It wasn't love, not even close, but it was something she hadn't felt in a long time. The reminder that her story wasn't finished, that perhaps life had more waiting for her than quiet nights and heavy thoughts. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and endless, covering every corner of the little town in white. Inside, Emma whispered to herself as she touched the locket around her neck, the only piece of jewelry she still wore from her marriage. Just get through this Christmas, she murmured. That's all. But somewhere deep inside, a voice answered her back. Maybe Christmas wasn't just about surviving. Maybe it was about opening her heart again, even just a little. She brushed away the thought quickly, afraid to believe in something fragile. Yet when she closed her eyes, she saw Ryan's hopeful smile, and Daniel's gentle one. Both carried the same message. She was not as alone as she thought. Christmas Eve arrived with a quiet stillness. Snowflakes floated from the sky like feathers, settling on rooftops and tree branches. The little town of Maplewood seemed to glow under the lights strung across porches and lampposts. Inside her small home, Emma tried her best to keep the spirit alive. She baked the apple pie Ryan had been waiting for, filling the kitchen with a sweet, warm smell. She wrapped the last of the modest gifts, tucking them neatly under the tree, and set out Ryan's Christmas pajamas, red ones with white reindeer. Ryan bounced around with excitement. He pressed his nose against the frosted window, whispering about Santa's sleigh. Emma tucked him into bed earlier than usual, pulling the blanket up to his chin. His eyes sparkled as he whispered, "Don't worry, Mom. Tomorrow will be special. I just know it." She kissed his forehead, forcing a smile, but when she turned off the light, her chest ached with fear. What if he woke up disappointed? What if tomorrow wasn't enough? She sat alone in the living room after he fell asleep, staring at the little tree. The ornaments looked tired, but the lights blinked cheerfully, almost mocking her. She pulled out Ryan's letter to Santa again, unfolded it, and read the simple words. "Please bring Mom a smile." Her throat tightened. She whispered into the empty room, "If only it were that easy." Sometime in the early hours, Emma finally drifted off on the couch. She woke to the sound of Ryan's laughter echoing through the living room. Disoriented, she blinked and sat up quickly. It was Christmas morning. She hurried toward the tree, her heart racing. What she saw made her stop in her tracks. The small pile of gifts she had wrapped had grown. Brightly colored packages, neatly tied with ribbons, surrounded the tree. Boxes she had never seen before. Gifts she had not bought. Ryan sat on the floor, tearing at wrapping paper with wide-eyed wonder. His face glowed with joy, pure and unrestrained. And standing nearby, holding a tray with 2 mugs of hot cocoa, was Danielle. Emma froze, her mind struggling to catch up. "Daniel?" she whispered, her voice caught between confusion and disbelief. He looked at her with a sheepish smile. "I hope I didn't scare you. I know this is unusual, but I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation at the market. You mentioned making pie, and, well, I thought maybe I could help make your morning brighter." He glanced at Ryan, then back at her. "I didn't mean to intrude. I just wanted to do something kind." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Ryan looked up at her, holding a small toy car in his hand. His grin so wide it almost broke her heart. "Mum, Santa came. Look at all this. He even brought you something too." Emma's knees felt weak as she stepped closer. Daniel set the cocoa down and picked up a small box wrapped in silver paper. "This one's for you," he said gently, holding it out. Her hands shook as she unwrapped the gift. Inside was a delicate silver locket. She opened it and found 2 words engraved inside. "Hope always." She pressed her hand against her mouth, tears sliding down her cheeks. Ryan clapped his hands. "See, Mom? I told you today would be special." Emma looked at Daniel, her vision blurred. "You didn't have to do this," she whispered. "I know," he said softly, "but I wanted to. Christmas is hard when you've lost something. I've been there, and sometimes the smallest gesture can remind us we're not alone." Emma stared at him, overwhelmed. She thought of the nights she had cried quietly, the fear of failing her son, the loneliness that had weighed her down for months. And now, here was this man, a stranger just days ago, standing in her living room, giving her son joy and giving her something she thought she had lost forever. Ryan tugged on her hand, pulling her to sit with him among the gifts. He was glowing, laughing, showing off each toy as though it were a treasure. Emma watched him, her heart swelling. His letter had been answered, not by Santa, but by kindness. Daniel sat nearby, sipping cocoa, not pushing, not asking for anything, just being there. He looked at her sometimes, his eyes steady, gentle, carrying unspoken understanding. Emma touched the locket again, her tears falling freely now. She smiled through them. A real smile, one that reached her eyes. Ryan saw it and lit up even brighter. "Mum, you're smiling." "Santa did it." Emma laughed softly, the sound surprising her. She turned to Ryan, brushing his hair back. "Yes, sweetheart. Santa did it." But deep inside she knew it wasn't Santa. It was kindness. It was Daniel. It was the reminder that even in the darkest winters, light could still find its way in. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of laughter and warmth. Ryan played with his new toys, humming Christmas songs. Daniel stayed, helping Emma prepare breakfast, moving around her kitchen as if he had always belonged there. It felt natural, easy, like they had known each other far longer than a few chance meetings. As they ate together at the table, Emma looked at the two of them. Her son, happy and carefree, and Daniel, quietly offering support without asking for anything in return. For the first time in a long time, she let herself believe in the possibility of new beginnings. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the town in soft white. Inside, a small family of two had, without expecting it, become three. Not in name, not in certainty, but in spirit. Emma caught Ryan's gaze across the table. His smile was wide, his eyes shining. She touched the locket again, her lips curving into the same kind of smile he had wished for. It was Christmas morning, and for the first time in years, her heart felt full. The morning unfolded like a dream Emma hadn't dared to imagine. Wrapping paper scattered across the floor, the smell of pie filled the house, and Ryan's laughter echoed from every corner. Emma sat quietly for a moment, her hand resting on the silver locket, watching her son play. His joy was contagious, pulling her into a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Daniel moved easily around the kitchen, carrying plates, pouring juice and humming under his breath. It felt strange, yet natural, as though he had always been part of the rhythm of their home. Emma caught herself staring at him, wondering how a stranger had walked into their lives and brought such peace in so little time. After breakfast, Ryan dragged Daniel into his world of toys. The little boy built towers with blocks, tested his new toy car across the floor, and proudly showed off each small gift. Daniel listened with patience, nodding as though every word Ryan said was important. Emma watched them from the couch, her chest tightening with emotions she didn't quite understand. At one point, Ryan looked up at her, his eyes glowing. "Mom, isn't this the best Christmas ever?" Emma smiled, tears stinging her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. It really is." Her voice broke slightly, but Ryan didn't notice. He was too busy laughing with Daniel, who had joined him on the floor. The sight touched something deep inside her. For months she had carried the weight of being both mother and father, trying to fill every gap, hide every fear. And now, here was someone easing that weight without being asked. As the morning drifted into afternoon, the snow outside grew heavier. The world beyond their windows seemed far away, quiet and distant, while inside their small house, warmth filled every space. Emma served pie, Ryan's favorite, and Daniel insisted it was the best he'd ever had. She laughed, shaking her head, but her cheeks warmed at the compliment. When Ryan finally grew tired from all the excitement, he curled up on the couch with a blanket and drifted off to sleep. His soft breathing filled the room, peaceful and steady. Emma tucked the blanket around him and sat down quietly. Daniel, sitting across from her, lowered his voice. "He's a wonderful boy," he said. Emma nodded, her eyes on her son. "He's everything. He's the reason I keep going." There was a pause, gentle and unhurried. Then Daniel spoke again, his voice steady but filled with something vulnerable. "Emma, I don't know your whole story, and you don't know mine. But I do know what it feels like to lose. To spend holidays pretending you're fine when inside you're empty. I came back here because I needed to start over. And today, being here with you and Ryan, it reminded me that starting over isn't just possible, it's worth it. Emma looked at him, surprised by his honesty. His blue eyes held no pity, only sincerity. She swallowed hard, emotions rushing to the surface. It hasn't been easy, she admitted softly. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing him. I try so hard to make things normal, but it never feels like enough. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Emma, look at him. He's happy. Do you know why? Because he has you. You're more than enough. Her lips trembled as she tried to hold back tears, but she couldn't. For so long, she had carried her pain silently, never letting anyone see. And now, here was someone telling her what she most needed to hear. She wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be, Daniel said gently. Smiles matter, but so do tears. Both mean you're still alive, still open to the good things waiting for you. Silence fell between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that spoke more than words. Emma glanced at Ryan, sleeping peacefully, and then back at Daniel. Something shifted inside her. A door she had kept locked since her marriage ended now cracked open, just enough for light to slip through. The afternoon passed quietly. Daniel helped tidy up, humming a Christmas tune as he washed dishes while Emma dried them. They worked side by side, and for a brief moment, she felt like she was part of something again. Not just surviving, but sharing. As evening settled, Daniel stood by the door, pulling on his coat. I should let you both rest, he said softly. That thank you for letting me be here today. It meant more than I can explain. Emma's heart tugged. Part of her wanted to thank him and let him go, to protect herself from hoping too much. But another part whispered that life had just given her a gift, and she shouldn't let it slip away. She hesitated, then spoke before he could leave. Daniel, she said quietly, would you like to join us tomorrow for leftovers? Ryan would love it, and so would I. His smile grew slowly, warm and real. I'd like that, he replied. When the door closed behind him, Emma stood still for a long moment. She turned back to the living room, where Ryan stirred in his sleep, clutching his blanket. She touched the locket around her neck, whispering to herself, maybe hope really does come back. The next day, Christmas continued with laughter, stories, and the simple joy of being together. Daniel returned, bringing a small bouquet of winter flowers for Emma and a board game for Ryan. They played at the table, their laughter spilling into the house like music. Days turned into weeks. Emma noticed changes, not just in her home, but in herself. She smiled more. She laughed without forcing it, and she found herself looking forward to each new day. Ryan noticed too. One night, as she tucked him into bed, he whispered, Mum, I think Santa gave me my wish. Her heart swelled, tears filling her eyes. What wish, sweetheart? He grinned sleepily. Your smile. Emma kissed his forehead, holding him close. When she stepped out of his room, she leaned against the wall, her hand on the locket, her heart full. It wasn't about the gifts under the tree or the food on the table. It was about love. Love in a child's hope, in a stranger's kindness, and in the courage to let light back into a broken heart. And that Christmas morning, when her son's smile lit up the room, Emma realized something she would carry forever. Sometimes the greatest miracles are not found in what we ask for, but in what life gives us when we least expect it.